Hello all you snaz-tastic human beings, my name is Muski, and today I'm going to explain what blending modes are and how to apply them to your drawings. This video also has some cool visuals since it is a tutorial, and because it's easier to explain paired with visuals, so be sure to watch. I use Paint Tool Sai, so this video will be tailored to those who also use Sai. However, most art programs also have blending modes that just go by slightly different names, so this tutorial should still help you. First of all, you can find the menu you need on the same side with all of your layers. It'll be called Mode and have a drop-down arrow next to it. The first blending mode on this list is Multiply. Depending on what color you pick, Multiply will take whatever color you chose and darkly shade over the drawing. The difference between Multiply and Normal is that you can actually see your drawing underneath. Black and white are the only colors that work different than the rest here, because black will color over the drawing while white doesn't do anything. You have to use gray if you want black to work, or you can just lower the opacity of black, which still makes gray. The Multiply mode works well with shading, especially if you struggle picking out good shading colors. Multiply is special because you can still add shading even after you finished your drawing. Let's say I forgot to add blush to this drawing. Choosing a pink color and setting it to Multiply can easily add some good looking blush. You can also use Multiply for ombres. If you already fully shaded something like hair or a shirt, you can make a new Multiply layer with the color you need. In this case, since the hair is white, the shading doesn't really fit the new ombre. If that's the case, you can just go to your shading layer and select the bits under the ombre and simply change the color to fit. The next mode in this list is Screen, which works similar to Multiply but produces the opposite effect. This time, using black won't show up at all while using white will color over the lines, with the exception of gray or opacity changes. Personally, I rarely use this mode, but it still works well. It's great for filters or pastel-like aesthetics. You could also use this mode for special lighting effects. Basically, use this mode opposite of how you would use Multiply. Next up is Overlay. I guess the best way to explain this mode is a mix of both Multiply and Screen. Black and white both actually work for this layer, but they are a bit strong. It's better to lower the opacity if you want to use black or white. Overlay is another helpful way to shade if it fits with your style. I've seen other artists use this mode if they need to finish art quickly but efficiently. This mode can work great as a filter too, as it can really change the mood of a drawing. Next is Luminosity, which kind of parallels Overlay. It's also similar to Screen, but a lot more luminous. Also like Screen, black doesn't show up while white does. I actively use this mode when adding highlights to eyes and sometimes hair. Luminosity also works well with lighting effects. It's best to pick darker colors since this mode really brightens your color. It's also really effective to lower the opacity a ton for this layer. Shade parallels Luminosity and works similar to Multiply, but a lot darker. Similar to Multiply, white doesn't show up while black does. You could also use this mode to shade, as the name suggests, but I do prefer Multiply for shading since it isn't as dark. However, that's just what works for my style, and it could be different for your art style. For example, I've also seen artists use shade as a quick and efficient way of shading since black does work. Lumi Shade is pretty obvious. It's a combination of luminosity and shade. Black and white will show up, but you'll need to lower the opacity for it to actually show the drawing underneath. I use this mode all the time, specifically as filters for the posts I upload on Instagram. I think this works great as a filter because it applies aspects of luminosity and shade. Also, there's this last mode called Binary Color, but I have no idea what that does. Everything is just really pixely, and changing the opacity can change the color of it sometimes. I never really use this, but I thought I'd mention it since it's in the list of modes. So now that you know all of these modes and how to use them, I have a few tips for you. Firstly, I advise not using solid black or white. While they do work, especially if you're in a rush, I personally find that using a color can actually look a lot better. If you struggle with picking out colors, I use a hue slider. In Paint Tool SAI, the hotkey for this is Ctrl U, and it brings up this menu. The hue slider changes the hue or color of whatever you selected. The saturation will change the saturation of said color, and luminescence will alter the brightness of the color. This slider is basically the color slider most art programs have on the side, but I use this to fix up my colors since you can see the colors changing in the process. It's extremely helpful since I'm bad with picking a good color the first try, like with shading skin or hair for example, so I'll use this slider to change the color until it looks nice. Lastly, using the opacity slider with any of these modes is also helpful since these modes have really strong effects. These modes are all very helpful and can save you time in various ways. Some artists use these modes a lot more than others, but it all depends on the artist and how much time they have. I hope this video helped you understand all these modes. If you're still confused about something, leave a comment and I'll try to reply. If there are a lot of questions, I'll just make a part 2 to this video. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day or night, wherever you may be, and goodbye.